everybody. Today we have an interesting guest. I'm Kimbra, you know Kellie, and we have the illustrious Marc Wasserman, all dressed up and looking styling.
Good morning, afternoon, or good evening.
Yeah, whatever is applicable.
Hello.
We thought we'd ask you what it is that you do, so you could, tell our audience, our listeners, and our viewers.
Absolutely. So I'm Marc Wasserman, together with my big brother, Craig. We are known as the Pot Brothers at Law. We're California cannabis attorneys handling all aspects of cannabis businesses, as well as all areas of criminal defense. We also co-host the only cannabis podcast that's partnered with a major media conglomerate, iHeartMedia, with Cannabis Talk 101, which is basically your Fox News, CNN News, and View of all things cannabis, as we co-host that. Me and my brother and two other wonderful gentlemen, Joe Grande and Christopher Wright. And we also, most importantly, go around the country and actually the world now through social media and teach people how to peacefully engage with law enforcement by using simply 25 words known as the script, and to shut the, I'm not sure what kind of language we can use here, but shut the up when cops ask questions. And I say that freely because we actually have that phrase trademarked for legal services.
Oh,
Right.
And so that's a little bit of a glimpse into what we do.
What? Now, how long have you been a practicing pot attorney?
I have been a cannabis attorney since 1996.
Wow.
So, and in fact, when I became an attorney in 1996 and in California, that so happened to be when Prop 215 was enacted and gave cannabis patients their right, was supposed to give cannabis patients all their rights, but all it did was create havoc, and cannabis patients were getting arrested and charged with felonies and other crimes. And I went right into criminal defense, defending cannabis patients, because the application of Prop 215 was being badly misused when it first came out. So I've been dealing with cannabis cases and crimes and businesses my entire career.
If you like our videos, go ahead and click on like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
Wow. What kind of law did you practice before?
So criminal defense, I mean, I've in 1996, I started the criminal defense. I did a lot of family law as well.
Right.
And so a large part of my practice for the first 10, 15 years of my career was criminal defense and family law, which had a lot of crossover.
Right.
And this business and stuff would come a little later on down the line when I had to make sure my nephew was protected because he wanted to get into that industry.
Right. You were telling me something earlier about the crossover, like sometimes when a family law case would happen and there's children involved and someone would accuse someone of drugs, or how did that work exactly?
Well, so you know, there's a divorce going on or a custody battle, and then suddenly one of the parties has a drug issue. And when I say drug issue, I want to say heroin, meth, and things like that, needles around. And you get a situation where if you're representing the spouse who is trying to get the kids out of that situation, you get pictures of the drug video, and everything's on social media now. So it's not hard to find evidence, especially in family law cases. And so you will have that crossover of criminal action that's negligent, endangerment of the children. There's many felonies involved when you get drugs and kids around, not to mention the ramifications of a custody battle. So,
Sure.
But where I really came in and fought were for parents who were being told by judges, you can't use cannabis. I'm going to take your kids, and other spouses jumping all over. They found an ounce of pot in your house, and I'm taking the kids away, and then attorneys on the other side jump all over that. No, you're using drugs, and you're doing, and it's a sad state of affairs when you have a parent who uses cannabis medicinally. First of all, everybody uses it medicinally, and the word recreational is a very dirty word that perpetrates further negative stigma against the cannabis plant, because we're not using it recreationally like they want to poke at it. And you hear it all over the media and in politics. And that's the way big pharma keeps it down and keeps the negativity going for those who already don't support it, because where do I have to go get my recreational shot of alcohol or my recreational beer? You don't. You're an adult, you use it. And cannabis should have never been divided into categories like that. And so to try to break that stigma, I always correct it's adult use, and it's important because people going to court and hearing judges who are saying, you can't use that because it's going to lead to other things. And I'm going to drug test you. And if you test positive, I'm taking the kids. And so, there's quite a bit of that going around in certain parts of California and in certain, definitely parts of the country. So that's a big thing we're advocating against.
Do you practice law in any other states other than California?
We just practice in California, but due to our large social media presence, where we have over 1 million followers on all of our social media platforms collectively, our educational videos probably have 800 million views or so. And we've created a worldwide attorney referral network system because we get hit up from all over the world. And we might get a family law matter, a business matter, whatever it is. And people reach out, they follow us. Hey, I need help. Can you help me? And so through that network we've created and which continues to grow, and I don't just send people out to people I've met on social media. You got to Zoom up with me and meet, and I'm going to make sure that you're somebody who I can trust to send people to, because we have built up a reputation through social media of being very trustworthy, honest attorneys, which that's hard to get to convince people that's what you are. And one of the things that has broken us through is our reaction and response time. All social media platforms, I get a message, I see a comment, I respond, to the point where people end up hiring us because I got back to them quicker than their paid attorney that they have on retainer got back to them, which is a big negative stigma against my attorney didn't call me back. And so we take pride in all that and creating that referral network, because we can't practice in other states and countries, finding good, honest attorneys everywhere. And they're out there. We try to do that to help out.
Someone calling you now.
I was just turning my phone off now.
I need you, Marc Wasserman.
I have to
I have a question.
Yes.
Because I'm in Wyoming, and obviously people all over the country will be watching this. So California law, can you tell us what California law is now regarding cannabis?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one that I like to emphasize by first saying, nowhere in the United States is cannabis legal. Okay? People who think that because they see it everywhere, come to a place like California and think, it's legal. I'm going to go into this legal shop and buy the legal amount and stick it in my backpack and get on the plane and then get arrested for a felony and wonder, what the hell did I do wrong? Well, it's a felony to do what I just described. So that's one thing I like to immediately point out. So in California, as an adult, you are allowed to possess up to 1 ounce of cannabis. And you can go into an adult use storefront and purchase up to 1 ounce if you are 21 or older. If you have in California what's called a physician's recommendation, because you can't get a prescription because it's federally illegal, it's a physician's recommendation, and that's still under Prop 215 that I mentioned from 1996. That's still valid and perfectly good law. You can then purchase up to 8 ounces and also possess up to 8 ounces. Guidelines. Now, the fact of the matter is, as a cannabis patient, there are no limits. So a cannabis patient, while the guidelines say for your house, you can grow up to 6 plants, an adult 21 and older can grow up to 6 plants per household. So if you have 5 adults in one house in California, you can't grow 30 plants, you can grow 6. Now, if you have 2 adults and they both have their physician's recommendation, you can grow whatever you medically need. And what that means is, if in the situation I'm saying, these people need 80 plants to get their medicine for the rest of the year, and then they get rated, and this is what happens. And there's 80 plants, You're drug dealers. Why do you have so much? Yeah, da, 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 da. You have to be able to prove through your medical records and your doctor declarations that you have this illness, this ailment, this, that, and the other, and your doctor declaring why you shouldn't be using this opiate or that drug. Or okay, so if two patients with their physician recommendation are growing 80 plants and they get raided, and the allegations are you don't have any of this many plants, and you're getting arrested, and you're felonies and misdemeanors. The defense is, I'm a cannabis patient and I need this as my medicine under Prop 215. And I'm filing my motion and I'm attaching my doctor's declaration from my doctor that says, I need cannabis because I can't use this opiate and this drug and that drug that's going to damage my liver and all those things that all the other drugs do to you.
Mhm.
That's why we need cannabis. Then we have to get the cannabis expert who comes in and says, okay, 80 plants. Yeah. Once they all flower out, and then once it all flowers out, you're only going to have so much left out of a good crop. And then you're going to take some and you're going to make tea, and you're going to make rubs, and you're going to make oils, and you're going to use it for all these different things. So guess what? Those 80 plants now turn into different types of medicine that you need that's going to last you 6 to 8 months. And that's how you defend yourself, because it is still a crime first. And you have these defenses, even licensed, we represent licensed businesses that have city permits and state licenses, and people are still getting arrested, still going to jail overnight. And then we have to go in, no, here's all the documentation, here's everything, even though the cops saw it and they choose to, oh, well, I think this is fake, or whatever they want to do. Yeah. And, you know, they steal money, they steal product. We're dealing with it on a daily basis.
I wanted to ask you a question about like flying, like, you know, because flying is, you know, under federal. So there are what, 42 states? It's same rules as California, or is California?
Well, so flying is completely illegal.
Right.
To fly with any amount of cannabis. And in the different states, they have the different levels of their laws, but in any state, you can get hit with a state felony for exporting and a federal felony. And so things like LAX caused massive confusion whenever it was, I think almost a year ago, where they posted, we don't care if you have the legal amount in California, which is an ounce or less. If you're going to bring an ounce or less, we don't care here at LAX. TSA ain't going to stop you. But they didn't tell you that when you fly and land at the other side, you could get arrested, which we have clients. I have a client who on Super Bowl, it was 2 years ago, I think, left, or whenever it was in Atlanta. The Super Bowl was in Atlanta. He left LAX. He had forgotten he left a joint in his pocket in one of his pants that he packed. And he got through LAX, landed on the other side in Atlanta. Dogs sniffed it out, and he was busted and charged with the felony in Atlanta. So there's that, like I said in the beginning, people think it's legal and they don't know. I know of an old Irish man who came from Ireland and bought a bunch of edibles at different shops, had, you know, whatever, he put it in his backpack, and then boom, he's looking at a felony. Oh. And it's sad that people fall into that trap because there's no education going around. Like I said, all you hear, it's legal now, it's legal here. And, you know, we're trying to blast it out there everywhere we can, but we can't reach everybody. And that's one of our goals, is just to keep getting this message so people know their rights. And when you talk about coming here to California, here, get this. You come here as an adult, you go buy a joint. Now, where are you going to smoke it? It's illegal to go as an adult to just go out, walk down the street next to it and smoke a joint. You can't do that. In fact, you must have a physician's recommendation that I was talking about earlier. So not only does that allow you to grow what you need and what you want, you can now smoke becomes 5 places that you cannot smoke. So in California, with a physician's recommendation, you cannot smoke within 1,000 feet from a school or youth facility, in a no smoking zone, in a motor vehicle that's operating, while operating a boat, and on a school bus. So if you're anywhere else other than those 5 places and somebody's lighting up a cigar or a cigarette, you can spark up your joint, you can light up, and you can consume your cannabis as a patient with your physician's recommendation. That's California.
So I have okay. So in California, you are allowed to have pot, smoke it, use it, if you have a physician's recommendation. Are you allowed to use it without a physician's recommendation?
If you're at a private facility somewhere, whether it's a private business or somebody's private
Your
home,
house.
but you cannot consume it in public.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't.
But you
yeah,
can buy it and you can smoke it at home, use it at home. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting.
What do
But
you? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what state has the most lenient cannabis laws? Would you say? Is it California?
I mean, probably Colorado and California,
Mhm.
which were, one of the first. The laws that are most stringent though, like, you go to Texas and you have a joint, it's a felony.
Wow.
There's still, we get calls. I get those types of calls daily, and I have to refer out to criminal attorneys in Texas. Had somebody who was driving through Texas and they got pulled over for speeding, didn't know their rights about dealing with law enforcement, let them look in their purse, and there was a vape cartridge. 1 felony.
Wow.
1.
Huh.
5 years in jail. I mean, it's ridiculous. Some of these
Yikes.
laws in these states.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm in Wyoming. I call it the land that time forgot. So, I mean, seriously, there are just some backwards ideas that this country, really all over, in a lot of the different states. So in your opinion, Mark, what is the obstacle to making cannabis legal compared to alcohol and all of the problems that alcohol causes, and the society problems, and the people losing their family and their jobs, and alcoholism and wife beating and DUIs? Why is alcohol okay? And I'm from the alcohol business. I mean, I'm trying to be non-partial.
Sure.
I was a restaurant and bar consultant for many years and worked in the industry. And I saw, the fun that it gave people, and it's a societal thing that we do. Kimbra and I have had a cocktail on the
we
show.
do social drinking.
Yeah, so I'm not against alcohol, but I don't understand the difference
Right.
in
Good question.
cannabis. Like, why can't cannabis be legal too? Why are we ruining people's lives because they want to smoke a joint?
Cannabis is not federally legal at this moment because of Mitch McConnell.
Well, surprise, surprise.
I mean, you ask a question
Man
like
that ruins everything.
That is
Mitch
the
McConnell.
that's God's honest truth, man. All the cannabis bills over the years that have been passed by the House have, as I've famously said on our shows, they all go to the Senate to die at McConnell's feet. Well, now he's not the majority leader. I mean, we'll see what happens, but he's done so much damage for it. But hey, what did he do for the Farm Bill, and why? Oh yeah, so he could collect some big checks making that Farm Bill so it could be hemp-derived cannabis, less than point, all that stuff. So the political nature of all this is really what's hamstrung it, and the reefer madness pushers that, as I talk about adult use versus recreational, when we go and talk to these legislatures and Congress people and people who are making these decisions, who already, you'll have to forgive me because I got to bring up what did our president just do? I went on a major rant on my social media the moment I found out that he fired people for using cannabis in the past after telling them,
yeah.
oh, hey, it's okay. Tell me it's
yeah.
okay. I mean, I don't even know. I'm beyond belief. I wrote
Wait, I didn't hear that story. You're talking about Biden. He fired
Biden
people.
and Harris both.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
They fired everyone who had ever smoked pot.
Really?
Like if you,
Why?
and
That's so
if
weird.
you were at a concert in a legal state 2 years ago and said, yeah, I smoked a joint at the,
Yeah, that's
and so
That seems so
I am-
archaic.
oh my God, I'm beside myself with that.
Yeah.
And I voted for him, and I am just livid. My daughter wrote him a letter as part of a thing like 3 months ago for her class. And it's just so hard to swallow that this has happened with this new administrator. Oh, I wrote an article for a magazine called Nuggle Magazine, and I've been writing articles for them for a while every Sunday. And I wrote this, I had one ready and I ditched it. And right after this happened, I wrote an article entitled, "You're Fired, Reefer Madness is Alive and Well and Living in the White House." And my first line is, "You're fired." That is a phrase that I used to think of this guy who used to have a show called The Apprentice, but now and forever, I'm going to think of Joe Biden for firing people for using cannabis in the past and insisting further they don't use it now while they're working in the administration, and he's going to do random tests.
Wow. Wasn't it Obama,
Sorry.
the one that said that he smoked a joint before?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
who was the one that said they smoked but they didn't inhale? Was it Clinton? Bill
Oh, that
Clinton?
was,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
I
was
smoked
Clinton.
but I didn't
Clinton.
inhale.
yeah.
Yeah, the hypocrisy, it's really lobbyists controlling this country. Corporations are controlling the country. We don't, our president doesn't make the decisions. He works for other people, and it's everything in this country is about money. And until we change how we look at life and what we value in life and the life experiences and stop making everything about making money, then we're not going to have the quality of life that we have been led to believe that we're living is the American dream.
What's so interesting about that, I'm glad you said that, money. The cannabis industry is a multi-billion
So
dollar
rich.
industry that is being hamstrung, and the illegal, the illicit market, what I call the traditional market, is blowing up even more, especially in California, because they're making it difficult for people to get in, and they want to keep it for the big companies and all that stuff. And so the money is there, but they want to bottleneck it and keep it for themselves. And that's why I'm part of something called the National Cannabis Party, which was recently launched. You're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're an independent. Now there's the National Cannabis Party, and it's a legitimate party. It's been registered, it's done. And as we know, 90 million plus people voted for cannabis across the board in all the states. That's more than either president. And so cannabis, as it's always been, a community past the COVID, I guess, but past the joint,
Well, it's a matter of freedom too. All these people that complain, they claim they want freedom, freedom. So you have let people have the freedom to smoke pot if they want. I'm not a pot smoker. I'm not sitting here trying to argue because I have a motive behind it. I just see, number one, we could be collecting tax money on it. It would be a legal and regulated business. I'm sure we'd have to fight big business, as you mentioned, Mark, already, that big business will get their claws into it and,
they're here.
dominate and monopolize the business, the industry. So we'd have to fight that, but we have to fight that for every other industry too. We just have become so complacent and let big business control our lives in every way. We don't even fight back anymore. And when we do fight back, it's, people not wanting to wear a mask. And I'm like, really? That's what you're going to go to bat for? Like a mask?
Yeah.
My freedom.
Yeah. Like there's so many more things going on in this country that we could fight over. And this is one of them. It's ridiculous. It's just, the time has passed. We know better by now. We know better that we could regulate it. In high school, which was a very long time ago, I remember kids getting pot. I don't remember through my whole life anybody ever wanting pot and not being able to get it and getting it. So what does a law do? Nothing.
So it's, you say, that's funny you say that, because I think of my high school friends that are now like mayors and senators of the cities we grew up in. And I'm going to them going, why are you banning it in your city? It's happening. I have clients who have cultivations right under your fucking nose, and and you could be taxing this, and you could be making money off of this, and everybody can be. There will be no unemployment. There will be nothing. There will be no, it can raise money for everything, starting with when you talk about hemp and making cars and then you go back to Anslinger in the 30s and those guys, they didn't want hemp because it was going to ruin the paper industry and the trees they were cutting down and, you know, all that stuff where it started. And that's why we deal with words like recreational and marijuana and not the word can. You know, you go to the dictionary, cannabis is defined as sativa L. And it was demonized back in the 30s with marijuana to make it into the minorities and make it easier for them to arrest the minorities and all that kind of stuff. And so that is what we're seeing today, which is why I'm such a stickler about when we're talking to people in conversation, and I talk doctors and scientists and everybody else, use the word cannabis, use the word adult use when we're having these conversations with these people who already have it devil's lettuce in their mind. And recreational, oh yeah, you're gonna go do it around kids at the rec center? Is that what you're doing with it? And so that's why we have to be vigilant about word. We already know words matter. Cannabis, adult use are important words to plug out there.
Right. Well, okay, so now I have another question. It might be a stupid question and it might be out of your league because you're not a medical professional, but you know way more about this than I do. What does marijuana or pot or cannabis, I guess the proper word cannabis, what does it do to your body? Like what happens?
Funny, I was just thinking the same thing.
Uses it.
Okay. So I get right. I'm not a doctor, but I've certainly interviewed doctors, scientists. I you know, the studies I live it. And so it's going to be different for everybody. The first thing you need to know is that in our bodies, there's what's called the cannabinoid system. We have a cannabinoid system in our body that has receptors that are ready to take CBD and THC, the basic elements in the cannabis plant. CBD is non-psychoactive. That's the element of the plant that can help with pain and other healing aspects. THC is the psychoactive element where you're going to get that head high. And now there are many different strains and terpenes and flavonoids and cannabinoids and CBGN and all of these other forms within the plant that help specific things. There's something called the entourage effect, the orchestra effect, where it is believed by many of the experts in this field that you should use some form of cannabis that has a little THC and CBD. There's different ratios. I'll give you a great example. My wife is a perfect example. She doesn't drink. She's never used drugs. And for the longest time, she was using something called ZzzQuil. I don't know if you're familiar with NyQuil.
Yeah, ZzzQuil.
Yeah.
They made something called ZzzQuil, which is to
yeah.
help you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she was using it. I was worried. I'm like, I don't think that's good to use it like every night. She was having a hard time sleeping. And I asked the doctor, and the doctor, yeah, you can't, that's going to hurt your liver. That's going to do this to you. It's going to do all sorts of things to you. And that's an over-the-counter deal you can get right at any pharmacy.
Mhm.
And so I said, look, why don't you try some gummies? Why don't you try some form of THC with CBD? We'll figure it out. And the problem with going through this process is because the United States is lacking on proper research where, you know, you take an Advil, you weigh this much, take this much, take these two. That doesn't exist right now for cannabis because of it's federally illegal forever. And that's why when you go look at studies that Israel has done and the other countries have done for 30, 50 years, we can get some information. But we're left with, okay, try this, try that. And you kind of just have to figure it out it took a month for her to figure out these specific gummies, 1.5 tablets, which was 12.5 milligrams. And it had a 2-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC. She started using it, slept like a charm, and the great side effect of an increased sex drive, which, if you read a book called The CBD Bible by Dr. Danny Gordon, there's a chapter in there, CBD and sex. You know, forget Viagra, forget all that stuff. The medicinal properties in CBD, I can't, you know, intelligently speak like a doctor would, but I know people, I know so much. I've interviewed the parents who have left states, cannabis refugees, we call them, and they go to Colorado to get the medicinal cannabis for their kid who has epilepsy and 300 seizures a day. And then they give it to him, and then now no more seizures. And, just on and on and on with the anecdotal evidence and the stories and the interviews I've done over the last 5 years with people who have been cured of cancer. You're not supposed to use that word, cured, and cannabis in the same breath. The FDA will jump all over you, but I've seen it. I've seen cancer go away in patients. And, just knowing that and telling people, look, you got to do your own research right now. And that's usually what happens. People who never used it are against it. Now somebody in their family, something's happened, cancer, a kid, something, nothing's worked. The doctors have tried everything. So try cannabis. I don't know. Okay. And then it's a last resort that, oh my God. And we're trying to change that. It should be a first resort. It's not, like the president says, a gateway drug into anything. It's an exit drug. And I know many, many drug addicts who have gone off all the hard drugs by using cannabis and not the other crap that they try to put you on that gets you addicted to that and all the other problems it causes. And there's so much of the anecdotal evidence out there that it still boggles the mind for me that we're still at a place where your doctor has to go, use cannabis. I mean, we hear that all the time. They turn off the computers and everything else. Why don't you? I can't say this to you, because they're listening. But you do have great doctors that they discontinued their associations with insurance companies and gutted their practices because they're no longer going to give opiates to people and keep feeding that frenzy and all of that starts with the big pharma.
Yeah, it's hard for me to control myself when I start talking about this stuff. I get so angry at I always say we're doing everything wrong. We're just doing so much wrong, and it's all controlled by money. And people don't want to educate themselves. As long as your life's good and fine, like you said, it's until it happens to your family or you have cancer, or then you start doing the research. But until then, people aren't willing. And I find it really interesting to study politics and learn about these things. But yet now we have a whole generation of people that just want to watch stupid reality shows. And I'm like, you want to see some really good drama? Start getting involved in politics, start educating yourself.
Oh,
because
yeah.
That's your job as a citizen of this country. That's your civic duty to understand politics and understand the law. And, none of us could ever know all of it or understand it enough, but at least make the attempt, at least try, because what's going on behind the scenes with everything, really, everything, especially in the medical industry, what we're doing right now to people, and
Oh, yeah.
the pharmaceutical industry has done. And we still trust them, just like, and I'm not anti-vax, but I'm a victim of a very serious case of a bad reaction to a flu vaccine. So I tell people that. I've had people like automatically delete me on social media immediately if I mention that. And I'm like, I'm not anti-vax. I got all my vaccine as a kid. I'm glad I did. I believe in it. But now we're over vaccinating kids, giving them, 40, 50, 60 different vaccinations. Really? And nobody does the research to see really, what are the numbers? What are the odds of them getting this illness anymore?
In Western
They're
medicine,
selling vaccines, right? They're making the money.
That's true. That's true. I was going to say in Western medicine, we're always thinking about the not the cause and the living of the healthy lifestyle.
Right.
It's like, let's load them up with all this stuff.
Sure, because somebody can make money from it. And recently, and I would have done the research if I knew I was going to bring this up, but recently one of the pharmaceuticals, I think it might be Pfizer, but one of the executives from one of the pharmaceutical companies that has the vaccine for COVID out is now saying, after this pandemic's over, it'll become an endemic and it'll be ongoing like the flu, and we will make a ton of money on it. And he was quoted as saying that. No, if you're an executive in the pharmacy industry, yeah, that's your job. You're going to be thinking about that. But do we want to let those people control our health?
Well, here, think about this. The research that's coming out now recently, and even before, about cannabis being able to fight COVID and the coronavirus and the
Oh,
strain.
really?
Oh yeah, there was an article, I don't remember where it just came out in, but and think about, they're stopping this research. I wonder why, I mean, it's all interrelated. It's all interrelated.
Yep.
Well, we're running out of time, but it's so interesting. I'm so glad you came on our podcast.
Yeah, very educational. Thank you.
My
Very
pleasure.
interesting. And
And-
we support what you're doing.
And I want to get on I want to follow your podcast. Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, it's Cannabis Talk 101
Mm-hmm.
on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your
Get your podcast.
Okay. Great. All right. Thanks so much, Mark.
I had a
Yeah.
pleasure. Thank you guys very much. It was a pleasure. Happy to do it any other time you want to talk about
Yeah.
anything else.
Maybe you'll come back again.
As it develops,
Well,
yes.
I would love to get into the 25 words and dealing with law enforcement, because I do
Yes.
seminars across the country, about all that stuff. And that's an hour in and of itself.
Okay.
If you want to do that,
let's
I'm
do
happy to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And say hi to your brother Craig, although we haven't met him yet.
I'm the front man of the group. So
So you're the good looking one, right? No, I'm
Good
kidding.
job.
yeah, and I'm the one that doesn't dye his hair. See, he's got 8 years on me, but he dyes his hair. I let it all go out.
I was just kidding. I was just kidding, Craig. I've never seen you, barely on your website, but
He's a handsome Harley rider.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.